Now, when I was in Food Town, I started out in Howell, and I only stayed in Howell for a short period of time. And then I went to the old Jackson store, which was the only Jackson store at that point in time. And I worked there as a dairy clerk for a while until I learned, the dairy business, and then I got a dairy man. They promoted me to dairy manager and put me in the Twin Rivers store, and I worked there for a while in Twin Rivers, and then I was promoted to dairy manager in the Lakewood store, which was an old food fair that they had bought, and I worked there, and I did a little bit better, and then I eventually ended up going back to the Jackson store as the dairy manager, and worked there. And through that tour of working with people, there were some really, really great people. My friend Ted was probably one of the best, and Lisa was a good girl there as a clerk, and she eventually became my head cashier in the newer Jackson store a few years later, and she was one of the best. And we had some interesting times. There was a bar next to the Jackson store, so we could always go over for lunch and have a beer, or go after work and have a beer, and sometimes we stayed from the time we left work until the time the bar closed. Those were some very interesting times. Again, it was a lot of fun. The the Jackson store, my friend Ted, one of the best grocery managers I had ever met in my entire life, even up till this day. And he just was one that gave every bit that he could for every second that he worked. That's just the way he was, and he was always into making money, taking care of his people that worked for him, and making money. And I think he had a lot to do with how I ended up doing the same things. You learn to take care of the ones that take care of you, and the business will take care of itself. And we learned that. We learned that back there working in those days in the Jackson store. And everybody helped each other, and everybody worked with each other, and everybody got along. It was a great time, great time. And I remember when we would just too many things. My mind's a little fuzzy right now, so I have to think about this for a second. So let me sign off.